Coronavirus pandemic. I'll take coronavirus for 100. Fever, chills, shortness of breath, loss of taste or smell. What is stay at home and isolate? Correct. Coronavirus for 200. Inability to stay awake, persistent pain or pressure in chest, trouble breathing. What is seek immediate help? Correct.
Coronavirus for 500.
Crippling and potentially dead infectious disease eliminated the United States with vaccination.
What is the polio vaccine?
Correct.
I'll take coronavirus for 700.
The Daily Double! Should I take the coronavirus vaccine? Wait. Hold up. This is not a game. It's time for serious discussions. We have coronavirus vaccines, but not everyone is comfortable taking them. Here's the facts. Based on what has been proven about vaccines for other diseases, COVID-19 vaccine may help keep you from getting seriously ill, even if you do get the virus. Getting vaccinated also may protect people around, particularly those at greater risk for severe illness from COVID-19. We don't yet have all of the answers. Get informed, talk to your healthcare physician, and make the right decision for you. This is a message supported by the Washington State Department of Health.
On Rainier Avenue Radio.world, look for the Change Your Food, Change Your Life show. I'm Dennis Weaver, your good food guide and host, helping you to feel good and look good, and who wouldn't want some of that? All that and more from the Change Your Food, Change Your Life show on Rainier Avenue Radio.world. Stories, songs, and guests. Begin living the organic good food life, and the rest of your life just may be the best of your life. Hose up, baby, to your health.
Trân trọng kính mời quý đồng hương tham dự và khám phá thêm về thành phố Seattle của chúng ta tại Pier 62 với các sự kiện và chương trình miễn phí trong mùa hè, các hoạt động thân thiện với gia đình như ca vũ nhạc kịch, xem nghệ thuật, yoga, kể chuyện, lớp học, thể dục và nhiều tiết mục khác nữa. Tất cả đều miễn phí cho quý vị vui chơi với nhau. Hãy truy cập trang mạng waterfrontparkseattle.org để biết lịch trình của mùa hè này.
You're listening to Rainier Avenue Radio.world. Check us out on social media, Facebook and Instagram, Rainier Avenue Radio.world, and on Twitter at Rainier Ave Radio.
Welcome to Rainier Avenue Radio. This is Afternoons with Monique, recording live in Seattle, Washington, every Thursday at 1 p.m.
Hello, you're tuned in to Rainier Avenue Radio, your community radio station. Afternoons with Monique on at 1 p.m. We will be getting started momentarily, so stay with us right here live. Monique will be interviewing this week Jeff Van Nostran, loan officer. So stay tuned for that. We'll get started here in a couple of minutes, and while you stay tuned, enjoy the sweet music until we get going. Hello and welcome here in Seattle. This is community radio station Rainier Avenue Radio, broadcasting live with Afternoons with Monique. Here with another update. We should be getting started here momentarily with Afternoons with Monique. Monique this week will be interviewing Movement Mortgage's own Jeff Van Nostran. So stay tuned for that. We should be getting started here in a few minutes. Stay tuned. Enjoy this lovely Vietnamese background music until we begin. Thank you for listening.
Good afternoon, Seattle. This is Monique Lee with Afternoons with Monique. Today, I have the pleasure of inviting on my show a guest. His name is Jeff Van Nostran, and he is a mortgage broker for, well, with we are running a little bit behind today, so I apologize for that. But without further ado, let me have Jeff Van Nostran come on and he can introduce himself. Hi, Jeff. How are you doing?
I'm great. Thanks for having me, Monique. I appreciate it.
Yeah, of course. I mean, I haven't had a chance to see you face to face, so we talked on the phone at length about your business and your work. And today I have the pleasure of your coming on the show and share with our audience the nature of lending in the residential real estate area. And from talking to you, I get the idea that you are quite knowledgeable on the subject matter. And so in asking you to come on the show, I hope you share with our audience some of the knowledge that you possess. And also I had a chance to learn from you. So yeah, so let's get started with introducing you and your background, how where you grow up, and share with us your schooling and what got you to become a mortgage banker or broker.
Yeah. Mortgage banker for me.
Yes.
We're Movement Mortgage is a direct lender, so I guess I'm technically considered a mortgage banker. I don't want to lose people in jargon, but thank you so much for giving the opportunity to join you on the show and the platform to speak to the audience. Trying to educate them a little bit on mortgage lending and real estate right now in 2021. I grew up in Vancouver, Washington. I have been in the Pacific Northwest the majority of my life. I attended the University of Washington and studied finance there. That's really what drew me to Seattle. I always had an affinity for the city, always had an affinity for the professional sports that were there. That was a big draw as a kid growing up. And so I attended the University of Washington and highly thought of business school, got a finance degree there. Really happy to have aligned my desire to serve people and utilize my people skills combined with my tendency to nerd out about numbers and finance. And so I think it's my calling. Working in the mortgage industry is my calling. So just a very service-oriented family that I grew up in. And I firmly believe that serving the general public with mortgage financing, education, teaching, guiding, and facilitating their transactions is tremendously rewarding to me and, suits my skill set very well. So that's kind of my story of how I came into mortgage lending. Right.
And what is the name of your company that you're working with now?
Yeah, Movement Mortgage is who I work with right now. Movement Mortgage is a top 10 mortgage bank in the United States based on annual closed loan volume. So a very large operation is the takeaway there. We do business in all 50 states. I am licensed personally in 6 states: Washington, Oregon, California, Arizona, Colorado, and Florida. So I can only conduct business in those 6 states. But really, the majority of my business is concentrated around, the greater Puget Sound area, Seattle, Bellevue, north and south of the lake as well. That's really the main concentration of clientele.
Now, the real estate market has been really hot of late. The last several years, it's been up, and it feels unstoppable.
Yeah.
And as everyone knows, King County and Seattle is the hottest place to be in terms of growth.
Yes.
And possibly on the planet.
Yeah.
Because of Amazon, Microsoft, tech companies. We have a hub of commerce here.
Yes.
So it attracts a lot of action, a lot of movement, a lot of money. So the real estate market didn't seem to slow down despite the years of growth in the past. So do you see, before we get into the mortgage, let's give the audience an overall view of, where we're at in terms of, the market's been really hot. It's cooled off a little bit, but still pretty on the high point of the chart. Am I right?
Right. Yeah, I mean, the market tends to ebb and flow a little bit seasonally. The Pacific Northwest is known for slowdown in the fall and winter months. I think a lot of people don't like moving when kids have gone back into school. People don't tend to like moving when it's poor weather outside. So if it's raining, if it's dark, if it's cold, if it's dreary, it's a little bit more daunting to tackle the move. And so I think the warmer months in the spring and summer are what really drive housing cyclically in the Pacific Northwest. But what, you touched on a lot of great points. I think the housing market is driven by really supply and demand. There's so many different companies and corporations that want to have a West Coast hub in Seattle. They want to have a presence in the Ring of Fire. It's a phenomenal city. There's a lot that the city offers. Transit is, from an airfare perspective, if you have business travel, Seattle is a great airport to hit many different cities in the United States, as well as over in Japan and China, and if you want to cross the ocean. So I think that's a big part of it. And then geography plays a huge role in real estate as well. If anybody doesn't know the area or hasn't looked at a map in a while, it's kind of fascinating to just look at the map of the state of Washington and really take in how much water there is. There's so much water.
We're surrounded by water, which is a blessing.
Yeah, it's a blessing. It's a blessing and a curse in the instance of real estate, because being that water makes up the whole Puget Sound
border.
Yes, exactly right. So you look at Seattle, and Seattle exists on this little sliver of land between Puget Sound on one side and Lake Washington on the other. And being that most corporations have a presence in city centers, in high-rise buildings and things traditionally, everybody wants to live closer to where they work, right? None of us really aspire to have a long commute. I don't think anybody wakes up in the morning and says, like, I'm excited about being on the freeway for an hour and a half, right?
Let's join the crowd.
yeah, exactly. And so I think the demand for housing close into the city centers, whether that's the Seattle side or whether that's the Bellevue side, Kirkland has a good business presence. There's the Google presence there. There's Microsoft in Redmond. You've got PACCAR in Bellevue, and then there's PACCAR down in Renton. It's just kind of sprawls all around. There we go. I like it. Bring up a little visual here. See? And so the urban sprawl in Seattle has extended to the north, to the south, to the east of Lake Washington, even as far east as, Issaquah and North Bend and things, right? And so because of the limitations of the geography, there's just no more land. There's not a whole lot more land. And most land has been built on.
Market.
Yes.
Prices just stay fixed or go higher. More people, less inventory.
Yeah, and I get questions from friends, and I get questions from colleagues, and referrals and things about, like, oh, what do you think, Jeff? What do you think the trajectory of the housing market is? Are we going to experience a dip? Is there going to be a lull? Man, it's tough to say. I don't have a crystal ball.
I've been waiting for that dip that never came.
I know it.
COVID happened and everything went up some more.
I know it. And
So what about the mortgage side of things? I mean, you handle a lot of mortgages in the last how many years? How long have you been in the real estate?
About 15 years now. And interest rate is at a low for the last couple of years, and recently it's at what is it around right now? I mean, the disclaimer that goes with my answer is, everybody's situation is different. It's based on your credit. It's based on your loan to value ratio, how much money you're putting down. There's all of these objective measures that go into determining your interest rate and your closing costs. But overall, in general, the average 30-year fixed rate in America right now is hovering around the 3% mark. So, I mean, historically low. That's the main takeaway. It's really, really cheap money. And that's also a huge driver in the real estate market. The desire to buy property is really high because of low rates.
Right, right.
So that's driving it for sure.
Yeah. So despite the low inventory, the interest rate keep people wanting to lock in those rates, and with the inflation going up, owning a piece of property and paying the low rate, hedging against inflation, that could be an investment instrument for many
Absolutely.
folks as well, even for not just purchaser but also investors.
Yes.
So,
Yep. Across the board, right? And everybody's trying to leverage cheap money, whether you're
Right.
buying a place to live yourself as your primary residence, if you're buying a second home, a vacation home, it's relatively cheap because of the low rate for that. And then especially if you're an investor, investors are frothing at the mouth right now with the interest rate environment that we have, because they want to accumulate as much property and use leverage and mortgage debt to finance those purchases as much as they possibly can, because this window of opportunity is eventually going to close. And so I really think these are all of the factors. The supply shortage of homes combined with the low interest rate environment is just creating a perfect storm for a market that is operating, at a frenzied pace.
It's really crazy. Now, the closing of a loan, it seemed like a simple enough process until you get into it. And there are so many little steps along the way to manage.
Yes.
And for first-time home buyers out there, people who have never gone through a purchasing of a home, they see purchasing of a home as a fun activity. They don't see it as a stressful, anxiety-inducing process.
Yes.
But I have learned through better experience that it could be a difficult time if you're not prepared. So help our audience understand how they can educate themselves before getting into a jam with borrowing money, with being stuck, with closing deadline, things like that, looming and losing earnest money, and all of these interesting things that most people who buy a home don't see ahead.
Right. Great question. There's a lot to the answer to this question, so I'll try and hit on some of the main points as best I can. But I'm a huge sports fan. I'm a huge Seattle Seahawks fan. Everybody in the Northwest knows Russell Wilson, and so I'm going to steal one of Russell's sayings that the separation is in the preparation.
Right.
And he likes to say that about preparation for football games, training his body, training his mind before going out onto the playing field and having to perform at a really high level. And I think being a home buyer in the marketplace right now is the same thing. The better prepared you are, the more educated you are, the more that you've tackled each and every angle, kind of going over a playbook of sorts, right? Football players use playbooks that they study before going into playing the game. But home buyers should be doing the exact same thing. You're going over your playbook with your team members. And I'm somebody that firmly believes real estate and mortgage lending is a team sport. And your team members are your key contributors are your real estate agent and your loan officer. So you're really creating a threesome of home buyer, real estate agent, loan officer. And with the strength of your team, the more experience you have, the better prepared you are, the reputation that you have for getting the job done and helping buyers have success in the marketplace is what's going to translate to you as an individual buyer or couple or family having success in the market. And I just don't think there's enough emphasis that's put on aligning with the right people and the right team members, choosing the right team members. I think specifically on the mortgage lending side of it, the internet is a blessing and a curse, because in today's world, you can find anything on the internet. Anything you want to search for, you can find on the internet. And I think what a lot of consumers lose in that thought process of, I'm just going to pull out my smartphone and I'm going to do a Google search and I'm going to try and find like the best rates around. Like, what are the best rates in Seattle? And this is missing the mark, because without securing a home and getting a home under contract in a market that's very competitive, multiple offers is the norm, right? You first have to get a house under contract before you can ever lock in your loan terms.
Right.
And if you make the mistake of choosing your team member based on whoever's offering the lowest rate and the lowest closing costs, it stands to reason that the majority of the time you get what you pay for, just like in, dentistry, a doctor, an attorney, a financial advisor, a lot of other facets of our life. When we're seeking these service providers, we're not so much making a decision based on the discount attorney or the discount doctor. If you're going to have a procedure or a surgery,
dentist.
We don't want people like doing things to our body that aren't really well qualified, have great reputations, and
the
you're
best
like,
people don't usually discount.
Yeah, I'll pay. I'm willing to pay a premium just knowing that my procedure is in good hands. And I think the same thing, the same characteristics, the same decision making should be carried over into both real estate and mortgage lending. For most people, it's going to be the largest purchase of their life. It's going to be the greatest amount of debt they've taken on in their life. With such a huge financial transaction, why would you want to work with anyone on the agent side or the lender side? Why would you want to work with anyone that's less than the best? Seek out the best in each respective field to help you have success. And it's going to give you peace of mind. It is going to give you peace of mind.
The question of trust is hard to find in this world because, as you all know, when you bring someone to the team to help you buy a home or processing all this paperwork, you have a certain element of built-in trust that the person will perform to the best of not just the ability, but the industry standard. And when those expectations are not being met, the standard of service or the performance of the work suffer, and the consumer who's on the receiving end of this process has a lot of anxiety and unknown that they have to deal with. So how can someone trust anyone these days? I mean, everything can be bound to screw up. I mean, I think the reason why people rely on the internet is because they count on the things that they can trust, which is what's written, and the things that is unknown, like, okay, can I trust it? Okay, I'll give this person a chance. I'll take a leap of faith on this person, but do we really know who to find that we can trust fast enough that we wouldn't be stuck with somebody that don't follow through, don't care, just kind of let things go off the track, and then you holding the bag. How can you find qualified professionals?
Yep, that's a great question. So, I mean, I firmly believe real estate is all about people. It's a people business. It's a relationship business. And I think that the real estate agents and the loan officers that have the best deeply rooted relationships with others in the industry, that is who you turn to first. Because ultimately, especially as a home buyer, the goal is for us to appeal to a seller and a listing agent. The listing agent's face or name and phone number is usually on that sign that's sitting in the yard, right? And if that sign is in the yard with an individual on that sign, that tells you and I there is a human being that is advising that seller, and we need to appeal to that real estate agent that has a tremendous amount of power to influence the decision that's going to be made by the seller of which home buyer is going to be awarded this property. And that is really the facet of this whole game. To keep using the sports analogy, the real estate game is really won when you can win over the trust of the listing agent. So that they say, I like this buyer, I like this lender, I like this real estate agent. I think they're going to deliver on all of the terms that they put in front of us. Let's go with them. That's the people business and the relationship business that is at play here. And too many people are making decisions just based on, again, what you said, what's in writing, what they see on the internet,
Right.
the, interest rates or closing costs that they see on the internet. The internet is nothing more than today's billboard. It is marketing.
Now,
it's marketing.
Right. So Jeff, our show is coming to an end. I'm sorry. There's so much that a home buyer can learn. Where would they go to find you, and how would they? What's the best place that they can log in and actually educate themselves on this process that is, not overly cumbersome, because there's so much stuff. Where is a trusted source of place that they can look up just quickly before we got like literally 1 second?
Yeah.
We gotta wrap it up.
The best thing is to send me a text message or give me a phone call at 206-775-5693. 206-775-5693. Outside of that, Google search my name. I'm really proud. I'm really proud of the results that show up on page 1 of Google, and I give everybody permission to pass judgment on me based on what they see on page 1.
And the hat that you're wearing, the team sport that you're supporting, what's that?
Yeah, this is my team. JVN stands for Jeff Van Nostran, and so this is my little personal brand logo.
I like that. I like that. Okay, well, that's our show. Thank you so much, Jeff Van Nostran, for coming on to Afternoons with Monique. You are on the Rainier Avenue Radio Show, and that is it. That's a wrap. Thank you so much. Have a great afternoon, everyone. Bye.
Thank you, Monique. Thanks, everybody.
This is